we were working for J-Corps. Now, traditionally, what would happen is some company that would come in that owned 50 radio stations would come in and buy 50, make it 53, and buy 3 stations in your town or 2 stations in your town. And they'd get rid of everybody. They'd give them the boot. And everybody always worried when a new company was coming in, uh-oh, J-Corps taking over secret. Who's going to get fired? Always happened in talk radio, always happened in regular radio. I can tell you that when Clear Channel came in, to my knowledge, look at who they had. They had Trevisano, they had me, they had, generally, the only people that they've gotten rid of, and they could have said, look at Mike and Rick, a couple of local yokels, we could get rid of them and put syndicated programming on. You know what I mean? At least they kept people in their hometowns because it was important to hear the voice of people that knew something about the hometown. They didn't just clear house. You know what they got rid of? They got rid of people who could be hostile in the workplace, or they got rid of people who were overpaid deadwood that had been there forever and ever and ever and ever and ever for some reason had never been weeded out and were not worth what they were being paid. They had achieved the Peter principle. They had been promoted to the point of being completely ineffectual. But they kept the talent. Myself basking in the glow of being Scene Magazine's Best Radio Personality of the Year for 2003. Thank you very much. They kept the talent, and at least Clear Channel sat around and had the forward-thinking vision to say, geez, you always need a racehorse in the barn just in case the one on the track breaks its leg. You want to go racing tomorrow or next week. So at least they did that. So I'm not complaining. I was speaking with Jim in Cleveland, and you mentioned you had, before the break, some observations you wanted to get to about talk radio.
Yeah, I've been out of work since February, so I listen to your channel a lot more than most people. But with the national shows and sometimes with Trevisano, it seems to be a lot of, it's more opinions, assumptions, and quotes. These guys aren't really that objective. All Rush does, not that he's completely wrong on everything, but, how could you have a radio station that just constantly, or a radio show that just constantly blasts the Democratic Party?
And he's made a career out of it, so apparently it works.
I don't get it. I just don't understand how, and I'm sure he's got the audience out there or he wouldn't be on there, but, it's the same thing, day in, day out, quoting, everybody's, issues that he disagrees with. It's just, occasionally, he did, bash George W., slightly on occasion, but for the most part, it's Republicans are all right and the Democrats are all wrong. So, it's a national show, and like you said, Clear Channel, you get it in every town you go to. I'm sure you can hear the Rush.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, the other analogy was you could go on vacation and drive around the country, and you could stop at diners and get a hamburger, and everyone would be different, and maybe some would be great, the best hamburger you ever had, and maybe some would be dog food. If you go to a chain restaurant, that food is going to be consistent in every town. I love Whoppers, all right? So if I wanted a Whopper, I know I could go to Burger King in Tupelo, Mississippi, or I could go to Burger King in Tampa, Florida, or I could go to Burger King in Las Vegas. I'm going to get the same Whopper, and that's what I want. I don't want somebody's interpretation of the Whopper. I want the one that is the same everywhere you go. And if people like to listen to Rush, he's on in almost every town. If people want to listen to Kiss or a Magic, there's a Magic that plays oldies in almost every town. There's a big one in almost every town. I was in Wheeling, West Virginia. They have the big one. Cincinnati has the big one, and it's talk radio. And generally what you're going to get is the best talent available, and Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck, or, you know what I'm saying, or Art Bell or George Norrie, or you're going to get a level of quality that whether people argue, gee, well, I could go to I could go to some fancy place. I could go to Hex and get a lot better hamburger. Well, the problem is not everybody knows about that. Everybody knows the Golden Archers and the big Whopper sign, and so you're going through the dial and you hear the big one. Oh, well, hey, let's see what's on here, and you know what it's going to be. It's going to be quality talk.
Well, it's the same concept as TV. Every big city you go to, you get you get all the major networks and similar type programming. So It's consistency.
Right. Consistency is what it is, and that is exactly what made cable TV what it is because you could get that consistency in towns, say, in the mountains where you couldn't pick up the network feed very good. Well, HBO is HBO in every town, on every TV. Showtime, Skinamax, everything's all the same quality.
Yeah, but how many people you actually know that love Rush and they love Howard Stern and they love all these national? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just my taste in this stuff, but
I know a lot of people that they can't. They've got to get their daily fix of Rush. That's what it is with radio. Is people get into a routine. I'm driving home every day at 4:30 and Rush is on. I mean, it just becomes part of their life. And then if Rush isn't on, who's this guy filling in? And they don't care if the guy sounded just like Rush and said the same thing. It's not Rush, and that's what they want because people want routine in their life. If they didn't want routine in their life, we wouldn't have church every Sunday and work every day.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I may not be right, but that's my point. All right?
Yeah. All right, take care.
All right, you too. Seemed to be a viable point. Roger, you're on the air.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please. It's your turn.
Hey, Rick, I wanted to talk about health care.
Oh, go ahead.
You don't have it, huh?
Well, no, I'm part-time.
Well, what does it take for the station to cover you?
You have to be full-time.
Have you investigated what it costs you to do it privately?
Yeah, and I'll take my chances.
Yeah, I did that, too, for a whole long time. Hey, anyhow, out here in Lake County, we've got a fundraiser going on. It's a roast to raise money for lawyers who accumulate catastrophic medical bills.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not. It's in the paper today.
Well, that sounds like the most nonsensical thing I've ever heard in my life. I thought
sure.
Lawyers make a lot of money.
Well, sure it is. Well, lawyers are raising money to pay the doctors, right?
Well, then the lawyers...
If lawyers go and leave their bills unpaid.
Well, the lawyers ought to be in bed with the doctors because they're,
Well, it sounds like they are.
If they aren't suing the doctors constantly for malpractice and putting doctors out of business... And if they had catastrophic medical bills, maybe they wouldn't be catastrophic because the doctors have to charge so much because the lawyers are suing all the doctors for malpractice.
Well,
the snake is eating its tail, Roger.
It sure sounds like that.
Well, maybe the snake deserves to have its tail eaten.
I guess so.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. What did that accomplish? I don't know, but it got me to vent. John.
Hey, Rick. How you doing?
All right.
It's interesting, listening, but the only people who were opponents to the radio, larger conglomerations buying up all the radio stations, basically were upset against it. This is not what I actually called to talk about, but since I'm kind of in the business and I wanted to comment on that is because just like you get the same format of McDonald's and talk radio news across the country with Rush, Limbaugh, and everybody else, it also sanitizes the news because the reality of it is without variety, and I can get back to the topic that I actually called you about, which is Iraq. Today on 60 Minutes, they talked about the no-bid billions and billions of dollars that have poured into Halliburton since Mr. Bush has been in office. And when you think about the fact that the people in Iraq couldn't lob a bomb across they don't even have a bomb to lob across the street, how in the hell would they ever reach us here in the United States to justify the lives and the billions of dollars that we've spent investing in a country that we really have no serious threat from? I don't get it.
John, you are preaching to the choir. I don't get it either, and that's why I've been sitting there for a long time questioning, what was the exit plan? Did we know? We knew how to get in. They said, they found MiG fighters in the desert. Well, you got to have airstrips to fly them. They don't take off vertically. We're spending an awful lot of time and money and soldiers' lives on something that I hate to use the term quagmire, but how else do you describe it? Hey, I got some stuff to give away. Be the 11th caller right now. Be the 11th and 12th callers right now at 578-1111. That's the contest line. Call now. Get a 4-pack of tickets to the advance screening of The Rundown starring The Rock. The Rock filmed this. At Lowe's Richmond Town Square, Tuesday, September 23rd at 7:30 in the p.m. Now you listen to these important words on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100. It just cuts off. Like Lorena Bobbitt. There it is. Music was done. Probably my fault, because I'd sit here and go, hey, crank this up, let it play, baby. like some top 40 rock DJ from 1958. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3's Betsy Kling. Tonight, some clouds, low of 60. Tomorrow, rain, thunderstorms, low 70s. Currently 64 degrees in Cleveland, 64. Well, get in out of the rain tomorrow and join the big one at Champs in Valley View. Mike Trevisano is going to be live from 3 to 6. Kevin Johnson from 6 to 7. Then the 2003 NFL Roundtable with Casey Coleman, Kevin Keene, David Kelly, and Mike Trevisano from 7 to 9. Then hang around there, and you can watch the Raiders take on the Broncos on MFL. Monday Night Football. Your AM home of the Browns, News Radio, WTAM 1100. Jerry, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes, I'm a long-time listener and enjoy the program.
Thank you.
You posed a question about a mother's milk tasting like chocolate.
If a woman is lactating, if she ate lots of chocolate, would she give chocolate milk?
Well, we called Cleveland Metropolitan Hospital hotline, and the answer is yes.
Oh, you called that 642 number or whatever?
Right, the same as if she were be eating a lot of onions.
Ew.
Milk would taste like onion.
I don't think baby'd like that.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think Daddy'd care for it either.
Yeah, it's a silly question, but I just wanted to get back with you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, I know my mother years ago ate too many carrots and started to turn orange. She was on some carrot diet where that, all you do is sit around and munch on carrots all the time, and her skin started to turn orange, and the doctor said it's from eating, it's the beta-carotene or whatever. Too many carrots. I'm starting to turn the color of a beer can. Rick, talk to me.
Hi, Rick.
Howdy.
Hey, on the talk radio thing,
Yeah?
for me it comes down to something real simple. If I went to a bar after work, say tomorrow night, and you were talking about something, I'd turn around in my stool and I'd be interested. You're engaging. Rush, I'd probably split for the farthest point that I could get to. You got to be interesting. You got to be engaging. You can't talk down to people.
Well, I just got to say in all fairness, and I couldn't care less whether they say anything to me one way or the other. I mean, I just got to say in all fairness, I think Rush has to be the most successful radio broadcaster ever.
Well, it doesn't make him right.
Well, I mean, he has to be performing. If he's not performing and people are not listening, the stations are not bound by God to have Rush Limbaugh on. I mean, if it wasn't working out, we still own Dr. Laura, but you don't hear her in Cleveland, do you?
Okay, then you've said that well. You're not a performer, and that's why I listen to you every night, even though I got to get up to 3:45 in the morning, which is going to be shortly at this point.
Yeah, I don't have an act. If you met me in a bar, I might be a little more animated. I mean, sometimes you're tired, and you can't. If you're tired on the air, tough beans, get over it and perform a little bit. At least up your energy level. But I'm not going to sit and say things I don't believe in, because. What's the point? Then I'd have to remember, because radio listeners have this memory like a hawk, and they'll call you 9 years later. But you said you liked chocolate pudding, and now you said you hate it, or some unknown, so.
And that's why I've been on hold for a half hour.
Oh, no.
This is probably going to get old, but I said the same thing last week. We got hit by a hurricane. The East Coast, there's people waiting in line for ice. There's people that have got water they can't drink. There's people right now that are in the dark. You think there's any chance there's a talk radio show in Europe right now, and they're discussing, let's send some money to the Americans. They're hurting. They're wiped out. Yeah, we got to send some troops over there. Let's help them out. Let's do something.
Nope.
Absolutely.
Nope. We're the one that's got to do all the help around the world, and then some of these countries take our care packages that we send them and kick them around and have a good laugh at our expense.
So let's stop, because in the meantime, I work for a global free company that has just announced plans to shut down for the second time a major employer in Lorain County. They've taken away my overtime. My people that work for me are going to be making more than I am, and they're completely a mess. There's a lot of stuff going on in this country that's getting ignored at the expense of sending money overseas so we can get kids, people that are my contemporaries, killed. And it's ridiculous. It's time for this to stop. There's plenty of money to go around, but it's being sent to all the wrong places, and we're getting no equity out of it.
Well, you're not going to get an argument out of me.
Take care.
All right, I'll see you. What do you want me to say there? Gee, I think we should be sending all our money someplace else when there's people on the eastern seaboard that are going to be without power for a week. Gee, drive through Appalachia sometime. Drive through northern Georgia sometime. Drive through South Carolina sometime. Look at all the people that live in shacks. Shacks. Medical benefits. They can't even get a job. Maybe they're heating their house with wood they had to cut down. I mean, these people are living in 1930s poverty. And yet we're sending money over to rebuild the schools in Iraq because we bombed them. That's the other downside of the Marshall Plan. Let's go in. I had an argument at the VFW. Remember, support your local VFWs. I had an argument with a gentleman who, I didn't argue too hard with him. He's a Vietnam vet. I mean, we were arguing about stopping communism after World War II was the big goal. And no, we did not win in Vietnam. But did it help stop communism? And there's a lot of issues about ifs, ands, buts. Did we, would we, could we? The last war that we won was the big one, WW2. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100, 100. Well, here's how I think it works. Here's my take. Well, did Vietnam go to help stem communism and the spread of and the domino theory? Probably helped. I think one of the biggest helps was when Reagan came along and had this cockamamie Star Wars idea, and the old Soviet Union panicked. Oh my God, we've got to keep up. We've got to keep up in the space race, in the Star Wars race, in the arms race, in the every race. And we bankrupted them. In the process, putting ourselves so deeply in debt that it took until the end of the Clinton administration for there to be a surplus. Are we stopping the stem of terrorism? Are we stemming terrorism by trying to take them out at the knees by taking over Iraq? I don't know. I don't want to bankrupt us. Another thing that stopped communism a bit was us saying, hey, China, want to make some money? Maybe you can build our widgets and gadgets and Buick engines and things over there. And China said, wahoo! Sounds like a good idea to me. So that's part of it too, but part of the new world economy means that as the economy of other countries goes up, ours goes down, and I don't like that. That's bad now. And now we're well on our way, or as Reagan would say, well, here we go again, to another just enormous amount of debt. How long will it take to pay off? I don't know, 2009 or something like that? So again, just to argue the point, and another Republican administration that is hammering us in the pocketbook. And just like the last administration with W, people are getting a little upset with the fact that the economy's in bad shape. And it may cost him the presidency if he's going to try and get reelected. I think we ought to do something about the economy.
This looks like a rerun of a bad movie, and I'm not interested in watching it.
Well, neither am I. Just me opinion. Lang, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
All right.
Hey, I was just going to call and defend what's going on in Iraq and some of what's going on with Mr. Bush here.
Sure, that's what we're here for.
All right. And by the way, I enjoy your show, and I think it's good you won the talk show host award.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hey, one of the deals about what's going on in Iraq, I think it's better to meet them on their ground than it is for them to come over here and kill innocent people in the process. So I don't think this was planned for, but I think it's kind of now that it came up, it's better to get it over with there than here.
I was just going to say in my own defense, I don't believe I said much at all about us going to Afghanistan. I thought, hey, good, go get the Taliban, go get Osama bin Laden, go get them.
Exactly.
Go get them, Tiger. But the Iraq thing was a little different when all of a sudden the UN says, wait a minute, no one's behind us, no one. I mean, whether you like the French or the Germans.
There are other countries behind us, just not France and Germany. There's like 22 nations involved.
Well, from what I see all the time, they talk about there's us and there's Britain and there's the Poles. There's Poland and England and us, and that's all I seem to hear about.
Other countries have pledged support, including Saudi Arabia.
Well, they can pledge support, but what kind of support are we getting? I mean, now the president wants bazillions more dollars.
Support.
Pardon?
Having served in the military for 12 years, I would rather keep it an all-U.S. operation if possible, because you get into confusion and you get troops killing our own troops with the bad communication between multiple nation forces. So in a way, to me, it's good to keep it an all-U.S. force.
Well, let the record show that I also had no complaints if we were going to try and go into Saudi Arabia, because that's where all the Al-Qaeda members that were on the plane seem to come from.
Now, one of the things that gets me are the people that are questioning what's going on and where the money's coming from. Never raised one question when we went to Mogadishu, when we went to Bosnia, when we took out Slobodan Milosevic. None of those people complained back then, back when Clinton was doing it. They weren't a threat to us.
Well, you make a good point there, that they were not.
And as far as this detailed accounting for every dollar for Iraq, $87 billion in the scheme of the government is nothing. They spend $2.2 trillion a year. That's $1 billion every 8 hours.
But doesn't it bother you that when W took over the office of the presidency, there was a nice surplus? And now
a surplus on paper.
That didn't take long to go away at all. And, what did you buy with your $300?
The surplus went away with the economy nosedive. We'll outgrow this deficit, but I do agree spending's out of control. When Mr. Clinton left office, we were spending about $1.8 billion, the federal government was, and now it's about 2.2, or 1.8 trillion, now it's 2.2 trillion. That's just an outrageous amount of money.
Absolutely, just to consider that $1 billion is 1,000,000,000 million.
Exactly, and that's spent every 8 hours by our federal government.
Good God, all I want's $1 million, and I can live happily for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but you'd only get about half of it by the time the government got done with you.
Well, no, I mean $1 million after taxes.
That's my point.
Yeah,
crazy.
I just I keep driving down the highway, and I keep seeing the Mega Millions keep going up from 87 million, now it's 100 and some million. I'm thinking, well, why wouldn't they just make 107 million people winners of $1 million each?
Exactly.
or make 50 people win 2 million each, so they've got over $1 million each. They would put money back into the economy. I imagine so will somebody that wins 107 million. Of course, the odds of winning it are 1 in 113 million. So I guess I don't have much to worry about, but I'm buying my $2 worth anyway.
Yeah, good point there.
Wishful thinking.
Right. As far as the way the economy's gone, 9/11. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York said that cost over 1.5 million jobs. It destroyed the airline industry, the travel industry, the tourism industry. So the economy's taking a big hit there.
Absolutely.
The job market is coming. The job market will slowly come back, but people are afraid you don't want to offer somebody a job and turn around 3 months from now, 6 months from now, lay them off again. So people are kind of putting off hiring, even though all the other economic indicators are up.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken with folks because I don't consider myself an expert in economics, but they said, gee, if you look at the market, there's stockholders sitting by doing nothing while they pump liquidity into the market to try and artificially boost it, because the people out there with stock, they don't seem to be buying anymore. But how come the market's going up, 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 up? Well, I don't understand all that kind of stuff, but I do understand that we don't want to ruin the airline industry. I would not want to sit here and conversely, like I did not give Clinton credit for a good economy, I'm not going to say it's Bush's fault for a bad economy. I'm just saying that it might cost him a second term.
Right. As far as the great Clinton economy, I'm glad you brought that up. If you look now, how many millions of people dumped tons of money into those .coms that were over $100 a share that don't exist now? How many companies are filing for bankruptcy because their corporations lied about their books? The big 90s economy looks like it was just a big fraud. It looks like a big lie.
Yeah, I've had folks say that they think that Chrysler is going to be the next Enron.
You look at...
and not that everybody isn't cooking their books, but they're doing it on all four burners.
You look at... Good point. But the economy was based on what people's stock portfolios were worth. That wasn't actual money. And all these projections of income were if this rate of growth was sustained. You look at what happened in 92 when Clinton was elected. Nobody had a cell phone. There was no real internet. Nobody had a personal computer. All that stuff just exploded during the 90s. We had a period of growth that could probably never be seen again, and a lot of it was fraudulent.
Well, and unfortunately, to try and boost an economy, what are you going to buy for Christmas this year? Well, you don't need a computer. You don't need a cell phone. You don't need a car that doesn't rust out anymore. I mean,
that's why those stocks all tanked. People, once you got automated and computerized and wired for the internet, you didn't need it anymore. It's a one-time deal.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a mess, but let's hope it turns around.
Exactly. It's the new economy. As far as these hanging on to these steel tariffs and these steel jobs, maybe it's time to consider a transition plan. Maybe we need to find the next internet, the next tech sector. Maybe we need to switch some resources over to the next job field instead of trying to cling to something that may not be viable in the future.
Well, here's what it is. It's Betty Babushka and her pickled egg with that same Rust Belt mentality that the manufacturing jobs are going to come back, that keeps pulling the lever for the nice boy from the neighborhood that keeps getting reelected and reelected, and I don't see anything getting done. I understand being earnest, and I understand results, and maybe you just can't get results, and maybe it is a stone wall, but I'm willing to let somebody else try.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
No,
I got to run.
Okay, well, thanks for the talk.
All right, yeah. I can't keep you on all night. And bump into me at a watering hole sometime, I can't hang up on you then, and you can corner me for hours and talk politics. Actually, I don't really enjoy talking politics off the air. Sometimes people overload you because, they realized who you are, and now they want to talk their politics with you because they know you can't hang up on them. I don't mean to be rude to people, but I'll just look at them and ask them, are you at work? And they'll say, no. I'll say, neither am I. President Bush describing as uncivil Senator Edward Kennedy's critical remarks of the administration's policies in Iraq. Kennedy said last week the case for going to war against Iraq was a fraud made up in Texas to give Republicans a political boost. Longtime senator also alleged that the money for the war is being used to bribe foreign leaders to send troops. In an exclusive Oval Office interview with Fox News, Bush said that while he respects Kennedy, the senator, quote, should not have said we were trying to bribe foreign nations. Kennedy's comments, part of the drumbeat of criticism Bush has received lately from Democrats. The Fox interview with the president airs tomorrow night. Well, I have a big criticism with Teddy Kennedy, but I guess that's bourbon under the bridge, and we'll drive off of it when we get to it. That goes back a long, long time. There is no more Camelot. Camelot. Chris.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Rick. Kennedy, have another highball, you moron, and shut up. That's how I feel about that.
In his defense, he quit drinking. I just think he did it 30 years too late.
Sure, he quit drinking about as much as, right.
As Dean Martin never drank.
Hey, to be cliche, the man ahead of me stole some of my thunder. We're talking, if you put the $87 billion in there and the total cost of what we've done in Afghanistan and Iraq up to this point, you're talking about 6 to 7% of our domestic budget. So when people talk about we can't afford it, I don't want to hear that, because it's okay that we want to throw out $400 billion towards prescription drugs, which would go to most people that can afford them anyway. That's the fact. That's never questioned. But $87 billion to protect us and to fight this war and to take this fight to them. Everybody wants to go up in arms about it. And you said something about Saudi Arabia, Rick, that you were right on the money. I totally agree with you. Go in there next, because they're not our friends. They're scumbags. They're just as much human rights violators as anybody in that whole region of the world. And they don't like us. They use us to get money for their oil, and they turn around and they stab us in the back.
Well, I agree with you 100%, but now we're going to confuse the listeners again, Chris, because they thought I was a Democrat.
Well,
I'm confusing them. Sorry, it's just common sense.
Every Sunday night, brother.
Huh?
Every Sunday night you confuse me. But you're right on the money with this whole Saudi Arabia thing. But they're deemed as somewhat civilized, and they've got a ton of money, and we won't touch them. And I don't understand that. Like everybody that were on them planes, 95% of them were Saudis. They funded Al Qaeda. They've given money to terrorism. Their princes and princesses are funneling money into these mosques. They're disguised as terrorist groups. And as far as
actually, you mean terrorist groups disguised as mosques?
Yeah, excuse me, I'm dyslexic tonight. As far as France and Germany and countries like that,
I'm dyslexic.
When they get bombed next, and when they have a World Trade Center happen to them, then they'll be on board. See, that's what cracks me up about some of these scumbag, smelly European, hairy people, is that they want to run their mouths and tell us what we should do and what we shouldn't do, but they're not the ones that had 3,000 to 5,000 people incinerated. Okay? If it happened to them, they would change their tune, believe me, Rick. That's what just gets me about the French.
Well, let's see how this plays out. I gotta run. Speaking of stinky, smelly people, should have warned Edmund, stay out of the studio. Had that spicy chicken soup for dinner. Floating a few air biscuits in here. The results of our cyber vote at WTAM.com. Do you think the Indians can win the AL Central in 2004? 62% of you say no. Add me into that. Ask me the question, do you think they can win it in 2005? And I'd say yes. To delve a little outside of the political bubble into my opinion of sports, I just happen to think that the Indians have a lot more young talent than the Browns. I think the Browns have a lot of young talent, but I think the young talent on the Indians are more talented. And if I had the ability, I would sit down with Butch Davis and ask him, do you know what you're doing? Are you sure? I mean, I know you cut the budget there a lot, but is that going to win us anything? Unfortunately, in the world of sports, the more money you have means the more wins you have. Why do you think the Yankees win so often? They got a ton of dough. They buy everybody. They buy their good players. And we can't afford that. So we got to work a little harder at it, I guess. Or look at the Marlins and Wayne Huizenga from Auto Nation. Came in, assembled a team. Tell me if I'm right. Didn't he? Assembled a team, got the sausage, and then tore the team apart and left town. Well, he got his. He can wear his ring now when he goes out drinking or goes to those power meetings to tell people how to run dealerships. There's the bill. Look, here's Wayne Huizenga. He's the guy. Look, he's got a Super Bowl ring. Okay. We got a Super Bowl ring the old-fashioned way. We bought it. Sheesh. Jim, you're on the air.
Hey, how are you doing this evening?
Just fine.
You know, I'm really ticked off at the state of Ohio and how they've wasted our tax dollars and
me too.
On this.
Me too. I mean, well, look at that sales tax increase. Then the next day they find enough money to put us back in the black. But they don't repeal the sales tax. It's still up to 8% now. I mean, you know what I mean? And what's up with that? That's fuzzy math.
You know, with this bicentennial campaign, look at how much they spent on barns and barn paintings and
bicentennial bells.
Yes, and, you know, all this advertising that you're supposed to see on TV and national TV, I've yet to see a commercial of it.
You mean like Visit Ohio?
Yeah. And, you know...
Well, maybe you have to go someplace else. They're not going to play Visit Ohio commercials in Ohio, are they?
Some of these commercials are supposed to be played on, like, cable news channels and stuff like that.
Well, you know, what about that? Did you hear about in Alabama? It was someone down there in Alabama. I can't remember. Maybe it was the governor. And he said, sheesh, you know, do you want us to turn out like Ohio? Now, oh, dear God, Alabama's saying you turn out like Ohio? Now, there's something wrong there.
But, you know, the thing that really gripes me and is, like, next year now, that we've got all these license plates on these cars that are red, white, and blue with the bicentennial. Those things are going to be obsolete. And a big embarrassment. You know, who wants to drive around with a 2003 thing on their vehicle that's not current?
Well, it has 1803 to 2003 Ohio's bicentennial. So it would still indicate that we had a bicentennial last year. That wouldn't be fine by me. I don't want to get rid of the old license plates if they're still in good shape. I like at least we had the option. What really bothered me the most, look what they did to the price of driver's licenses. They raised them from, what, $5 or $4 to $12, or they raised them $12 so they're $16 or whatever. That's outrageous. Does it really cost more money to put together driver's licenses now than it did a month ago?
It's a farce, and, you know, like it or not, Ohio's chasing businesses out of its areas except for Columbus. Columbus has got something that nobody else can do in Ohio. And that is, they are attracting people.
Well, yeah, and there's something in the air getting women pregnant in Cleveland, too. It's their legs. Tomorrow on the big one, go to Champs in Valley View. See Mike Trevisano live from 3 to 6, and then Kevin Johnson will take over from 6 to 7, and then the 2003 NFL Roundtable with Casey Coleman, Kevin Keene, David Kelly, and Trev from 7 to 9. Then hang around, watch the Raiders take on the Broncos on Monday Night Football. That's at Champs in Valley View. Here AM, home of the Browns, is us, News Radio, WTAM 1100. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling. Tonight, clear, some clouds, low of 60. Tomorrow, there's a hole in our bucket again. Rain, thunder, low 70s. Doesn't this feel like more like spring than fall? Currently 64 degrees in Cleveland. I will say 64 degrees. Where I live, it looks like they fed the birds cherry pie. Of all the colored crap on my car. So at least with all the rain we're having, I didn't have to go out there with like a pickle fork and a chipmunk with some Bon-Ami and let them pat around on my hood. You know, at least the stuff washes away. That's a good thing. Speaking of pickle forks, did I ever tell you about the time I was doing stand-up in Bangkok? And I was on stage, and I was telling these little jokes, and all of a sudden I see the people in the audience picking up little pickle forks and sticking them into their eyes and pulling them out and waving them around. Apparently, that's the way the people over there show their appreciation instead of laughter. And I must have been funny because by the end of the night, there wasn't a tie-eye in the house. John, talk to me.
Hi. Oh, yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Did I tell you I started dating a homeless woman?
No.
The best part is you can drop her off anywhere. Hold on, would you? I'll get to you after the news. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend. See, that's why I got the Scene Best Radio Personality of the Year for 2003 award. Check it out. Pick up a copy of the Scene before Wednesday when they take them all away and put them in the garbage. And you'll never see them again. Go get your collector's copy like I did and laminate it and carry it around like a card. And show people, see? Radio personality, best radio personality. See? More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend, and this is Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
Is that Gilmour again?
Guy's got a lot of intensity.
The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, you bet your Aunt Fanny. How about that? Maybe I'll tell you this.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Might very well be. No bumpier than normal, would it? Not from an award-winning best radio personality in the Scene magazine. No, of course not. Right, big voice man? Who won that award?
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
That's right. If you haven't seen it, it was an interesting read. It said Rick Gilmour is not a sports talk host, which alone makes him a breath of fresh air wave. But who could not love a guy who ate a grenade for all of Cleveland when he replaced Morton Downey Jr. on WTAM? What does that mean? 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code, toll-free 888-723-WTAM. I've had about 6 people ask me that. Well, what does it mean you ate a grenade? I don't know. It's just some kind of fancy pants writing over there at the scene. That was after Gilmour spat with the FCC over reciting Allen Ginsberg poetry on the air. Actually, it was a spat with station management, who did not care what the FCC regulations were and were not at a small station to remain unnamed. I put that part in. And after he hosted a talk show devoted to beer. The one-time used car salesman is all cigarettes and smirks, a shifty scoundrel who makes you happy that he's on your radio and not actually in the room. But the guy's got talent, as well as an insufferably lame late-night time slot, which gets even worse if the Indians play extra innings. Well, we won't have to worry about that now, will we? Not till next year. Gilly's been the little one at the big one for 6 years now, and he deserves better. Was I a shifty scoundrel because I was a one-time used car salesman? I was actually a very honest used car salesman. I'd have some, Pinto with a piece of plywood in the floor. Some guy'd call and say, I need a car for my daughter so she can drive the baby around. And I'd say, well, maybe you need a car for your daughter to drive your baby around in, but it ain't this one, because you don't need baby falling out through the floorboards. And they'd say, well, thank you very much for being so honest. We appreciate it. Say you're more than welcome. But I also have this nice thing over here. Put you into something a little more expensive, maybe. We used teak wood to patch the floor on that one, not plywood. We moved up. We found some house in Bracknell with a ballroom floor, and we'd fix the Chevy Caprices. We'd fix the floor in them with teak wood from a ballroom in Bracknell. The Pinto's got plywood and sheet metal. The Volkswagen Beetles got 1.5-inch conduit, bent to fit, and sheet metal and tar. Because everybody knew Volkswagen Beetles routed the floor out. But if you tarred the underside up real good, when they'd peek under, they couldn't tell. Same thing with Corvairs. General Motors had this thing in the 60s, and the car had to get to at least 10,000 miles, and then the windshield and the rear window leaked. It was nothing in the 60s to get nothing to get into an old 60s car in a big rainstorm. especially a GM, and get that steady drip, drip, drip on your leg. Well, that's enjoyable, isn't it? They probably sold more clear silicone back then to try and goo around the windshield. Think about that. Think about how much better cars have gotten than they used to be. It used to be cars rusted out. I knew a guy with a beautiful Chevy Caprice or whatever it was. I think it was a Caprice. 66 Chevy station wagon. And it didn't have any rust or anything. And he's driving down the street one day, and it's icy out. And he slams on the brakes, and it locks up the wheels. And then he hits a dry patch, and it rips the lower control arm out that holds the rear axle in place because the frame had rotted. And it ended up in the junkyard. Well, a lot of cars, Fords and Chevys alike, break them frames back in the 60s. How about Valiants and Darts? See them laying on the ground in the front end. Oh, broke the torsion bar mount. Rotted out. Nothing does that anymore, does it? Most cars just, you drive them forever. They get 220,000 miles on them, and they're just pooped out. They might have a little rust, but it's not like it used to be. In the good old days. Everybody talks about, those were the good old... Well, yeah, you could tell one car from another, 1 year from another. But nowadays, you don't have to rebuild your carburetor or put points and plugs and condenser in every 10,000 miles. Or bump steer your way down the road on bias ply tires. Automotive works of art. That kept a lot of people at brake and cut shops in business and tune-ups. That was the downside to... See, now at least you got ASC certified mechanics. Because it's like you got to go to college every year over and over to learn all the new stuff that's going on. They'll send out books, whole books. And there's a new ignition system. Now, all your mechanics have to learn about this. It's a whole book because it's so involved. However, when was the last time you owned a fuel-injected car? When was the last time you had to pump the gas in the wintertime and wonder if it's going to stall 4 times before you back out of the driveway? And, I flooded it. Better take the air cleaner lid off and stick a screwdriver down there. Got some starting fluid and jumper cables? Most people don't even carry jumper cables anymore. The automotive industry has gone out of its way to ruin the jumper cable industry. They've gone out of the way to ruin the starting fluid industry. I knew a guy once, his sister had a 65 Ford convertible, and it wouldn't start. And he didn't know anything about cars, right? So it's wintertime, and it's cold, and it won't start, and it's sitting in his parents' garage, and he's going to give me a ride to school. We were in high school at the time. So he opens the hood, and he takes a can of starting fluid, and he just starts spraying it all under the hood. You're just going to spray it all over the engine. And I'm looking at him, I says, you got to take the air cleaner lid off and spray it down the carburetor. Oh, do you think it was magic? It's magic. We have this stuff called starting fluid. You just sort of... It's no worse than my dad's buddy. When they were growing up, he had a 38 Pontiac, and it wouldn't start. So it was the middle of winter. So this guy got the bright idea that, it always starts when it's warm. So the best way to fix it would be to start a fire under the engine. He did. It didn't start. It started the garage on fire, burned down the car and the garage and everything else. See, those were the good old days, right? When fenders would fall off and headlights would fall out. Do you remember the good old days of 1960 Ford Falcons where the headlights would fall right out of the front fenders from rust? So people would take fog lights and bolt them on the bumper to make them look like yeah, those were the good old days of 4-wheel drum brakes and single braking systems. Those were the good old days where you had to be careful when you jacked up the car because it was so poorly designed that the bumper would just crush its way into the body. Yep. Everybody had a better idea back then. Like Ford with their drop-in gas tanks on the early Mustangs. Or if you get hit in the rear end, at any decent speed, it bursts and spews the fuel into the passenger compartment. Or the Pinto, where they could have fixed it for $1.50 a car to put a little piece of plastic in there, so if you get hit in the back end, the gas tank would not puncture itself on the rear axle. But if you sit and count the beans, $1 a car, $1.50 a car... Okay, so we lose 8 or 10 lives in the car accidents because of explosions a year. It's cheaper to pay off the families than it was to fix the cars. Yep, those were the good old days. Now, don't get me wrong. We didn't know any better back then. If you could buy a 68 GTO in 1978 for $100, you could probably outrun the cops because they were driving 78s, which Think about that. Besides Corvettes, what else from the 70s and 80s could you ever collect? Now, I don't think you're going to see a Gremlin in a museum or a Pacer. Maybe a Vet. You might see a Vet or a nice Caddy Eldorado or something like that. Yeah, Caddy 76 Eldo convertible last year. Yeah, something like that. Think about the Crawford Auto Museum 40 years from now. What's going to be? They're going to have an LTD2 and a Granada, a Chevette, a Pinto, and a Volare. Yeah. Volare. What a car. But I digress. Sometimes I just like talking about cars. In fact, someone emailed something to me at Gilly at WTAM.com. Driving rules in Cleveland. Driving rules in Cleveland. Cleveland is often acclaimed as the most exciting city in America in which to drive. Who would argue? Herewith, for newcomers and visitors, are a few basic rules of the road for driving in these parts. To obtain a general idea of how to drive in Cleveland, go to a Cavaliers game and carefully watch the fast break. Then get behind the wheel of your car and practice it often. Never take a green light at face value. Always look right and left before proceeding. When in doubt, accelerate. In the long run, parking your car in a lot is always cheaper than parking at a meter. Drivers whose cars sport "I brake for animals" bumper stickers may brake for animals, but they may not brake for you. Watch for it. Never drive behind a person whose head cannot reach over the top of the steering wheel. These rules for driving in Cleveland. Teenage drivers believe they are immortal. Do not yield to the temptation to teach them otherwise. Taxi cabs should always have the right of way unless you're bent on suicide. Well, let me jump in here. Taxi cabs where you can pull start the driver with the clothing on his head, driving in the fast lane at 55 all the way down the road. Apparently, 55's fast if you're on a Camel. Anyway, back to the rules. The first parking space you see will be the last parking space you see. Better grab it. Learn to swerve abruptly. Cleveland is the home of slalom driving thanks to the Department of Highways, which puts potholes in key locations to test drivers' reflexes and keep them on their toes. Steer clear of people with anti-nuclear bumper stickers pasted on their cars. They are interested in preserving mankind, which is admirable. They are not necessarily interested in preserving you or themselves, for that matter. They have more important things to think about. Here's a good one. Never get in the way of a car that needs extensive body work. More rules for driving in Cleveland. Always look both ways when running a red light. When it is possible to fit a 15-foot car into a 15-foot parking space, it is seldom possible to fit a 16-foot car into a 15-foot parking space. Sad, but true. There's no such thing as a shortcut during rush hour traffic in Cleveland. Well, yeah, there is. They call it West 14th. But we're trying to do something to fix that. It is traditional in Cleveland to honk your horn at cars that don't move the instant the light changes. Never put your faith in signs that purport to provide directions. They are there to confuse people who do not know their way around the city. Use extreme caution when pulling into breakdown lanes. Breakdown lanes are not for breaking down, but for speeding, especially during rush hour. Never use directional signals, since they only confound and distract other Cleveland drivers who are not used to them. Similarly, never attempt to give hand signals. Cleveland drivers unused to such courtesies will think you're making obscene gestures to them. This could be very bad for you in Cleveland. The yellow light is not, as commonly supposed outside the Cleveland area, a signal to slow down. It's a warning to speed up and get through the intersection before the light turns red. More rules for driving in Cleveland. Never pass on the left when you can pass on the right. When making a left turn from the right lane, employ the element of surprise. That is, do it as suddenly as possible so as to stun other drivers that have not been practicing their slalom driving skills. Speed limits are arbitrary figures posted only to make you feel guilty. That one's for Sky Chief. Whenever possible, stop in the middle of a crosswalk to ensure inconveniencing as many pedestrians as possible. This action readies them for their workday. Remember that the goal of every driver is to get there first by whatever means necessary. And above all, keep moving. Good luck. You'll need it. Be the 11th caller right now at 578-1111 in the classic 216 area code. Give away a couple 4-packs. Be the 11th and 12th callers. And call Caleb there. And get a 4-pack of tickets to the advanced screening of The Rundown, starring The Rock. The Rock filmed this. You can check that out at Lowe's Richmond Town Square, Tuesday, September 23rd at 7:30 p.m. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling. Some clearing overnight. Possible clouds moving in earlier in the morning, upper 50s. Tomorrow, rain, thunderstorms, low 70s. Currently 59 degrees in Cleveland, 59. So get in out of those thunderstorms, get in out of the rain, and join the big one over there in Valley View tomorrow at Champs. Go over there, you can check that out. You can see the Mike Trevisano Show broadcast live from 3 to 6, and then Kevin Johnson will take over from 6 to 7. Then you got your 2003 NFL Roundtable with Casey Coleman, Kevin Keene, David Kelly, and Mike Trevisano from 7 till 9. Then don't go no place. Well, you're going to go back outside in the rain? Sit in your chair there, or stand up and yell, or whatever you want to do. Watch the Raiders take on the Broncos on Monday Night Football. Your AM home of the Browns is us. News Radio, WTAM 1100. Joe, you're on the air.
Hey, Gilly, how are you, bud?
All right.
Hey, I want to say you are the man, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Anyhow, I wanted to ask you a question. You said, what would be collectible from the 70s? Help me out here. It's either 75 or 76, but it was the old 442 Hertz limited edition model.
Yeah, I keep thinking for some reason it was a 74.
You may be right. It may have been a 74, but I remember it had T-tops and it had that long front end with the short scallop back end.
That would be collectible as well because they rotted out as quickly as anything else.
They sure got up and goed when you jumped on them, though.
Well, that's true. There were a few cars. I mean, let's say, how about a Boat Tail Riviera?
Wow.
I mean, that's
have one of those.
That's from the 70s. I guess what I meant was maybe I should have qualified that by saying, how about 1975 to 1990? Aside from a Corvette, what's collectible? Not much.
You got me stumped there.
Not many Corvettes in that era were all that collectible either. That's when the era of the plastic pig. Wrap your ass in fiberglass. Where when you drove them down the road, they felt like a formation of parts all flying, a pile of parts flying in formation.
When you drove them, it felt like you were riding on the road to begin with.
You sit at street level. Yeah, it was like a plastic go-kart.
Absolutely.
Now I've got vet people out there. Oh, I've got a 75 vet with sheet metal floors that I never fell through yet. Good for you, pal.
Absolutely.
All right.
Keep up the good work, boss. We love you, man.
All right, Joe. Talk to you later there, champ. Steve, talk to me.
Hi, Rick.
Howdy.
I like the old cars that used to have bent frames, look like they're going down the road sideways.
Yeah, we called that dog tracking.
Yeah, you don't see many of those anymore because they're all unibody.
Or you know what else they'd do is they had locator pins for the rear axle if they had leaf springs. This was especially notorious in Chevy Novas. And they'd break the locator pin so the axle would shift. And then they're going down the road and it looks like Ford vans used to be that way once in a while too. You'd see, well, the front wheels are over here and the rear wheels are over there.
I used to have a Plymouth Valiant that it had 3 on the tree.
Yeah.
And the linkage would get stuck, and in traffic, I'd have to run out and pop the hood and hit it with a hammer.
Ah, the good old days. Thanks for the trip down memory lane. If you got more, I'll put you on hold through the news.
Yeah, I do. I wanted to say something about Iraq.
All right, hang on, Tiger. Do we got that many spots? Is that where we're going? Are we going to news? Wow. Okay. Just wanted to check there before I get the cart before the horse. I'm Rick Gilmour, the Scene Best Radio Personality of the Year winner for 2003, and the Thinking Man's Friend. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM. To the advanced screening of The Rundown starring The Rock at Lowe's Richmond Town Square, coming up Tuesday at 7:30. If you can handle that, be the 11th and 12th callers right now at 578-1111 in the classic 216 area code. Blow out them prizes, give them all away. Ain't gonna hang on to nothing, just take it home with me now. Or Steve, I held you through. You had some comments about Iraq?
Yeah, I think the money is a good investment. I've said that before, and mainly because all that Iraq and all those countries in that area, they have all the resources, yet they can't even feed their own people, and they don't provide clean water to drink, and you can barely get electricity there.
See, the real breeding ground that people don't talk about for people like Al-Qaeda members, recruiting areas, is someplace like Saudi Arabia, where the very rich have all the dough, and believe it or not, there are a lot of poor people in Saudi Arabia that can't get a job. And so you get young people that can't just get out of school and do something. Well, then you tell them, hey, you know, it's all America's fault. Let's kill them.
Well, it's a recipe for war, the way they have to change. It's the last part of the world that still has, you know, doesn't have any kind of representative democracy. It's still run by, you know, kings and princes and sultans, and they own all the resources. So they're going to have to change because, you know, otherwise the recipe for war, and what it'll lead to is they're trying to obtain nuclear weapons, and the United States is not going to allow that.
No, well, you know what, and I can tell the way the world's going, they're either going to change or we're going to change them.
Hey, I got a joke for you.
Is it clean?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's an Italian guy, a Spanish guy, and a black guy in a car. Who's driving?
I know the answer to that. You know, I should have asked you, is it clean? Is it racist? I guess I got to ask both questions nowadays. Yeah, I like the one that I heard, you know, the best part about dating a homeless woman. You can trap her off anywhere. Jake from Barkeyville.
Yes, sir.
You're kind of breaking up a little. Want me to put you on hold and try back?
Okay.
Now you seem all right, but if you break up, I'll have to do it again. So, yeah, you seem okay. Go ahead.
Well, now you might make me cry. I didn't know we were going to break up.
Yeah.
I thought you just said you wanted to talk.
Yeah, well, we can sit and hold hands.
Nice. This freaking Iraq thing. Are you sick of it?
You know, it's funny because I brought it up, but I've spoken with a lot of people during the week that said, oh, boy, I'm just tired of this. And I thought, well, there's nothing new happening other than us losing more American soldiers. I don't see us coming out with any bold new headway.
No. And it's not going to get any better because I listened to the Democratic so-called debates, and all that was just a big, you know, Bush bashing thing. When some of them voted for it, and some of the other people, you know, your buddy Kucinich, you know.
Whoa, he ain't my buddy.
Well, I mean, okay, so you voted for him.
No, I never voted for him. He's my congressman, but I never voted for him.
I know. A lot of us get that, and that brings me to the California recall. And the people screaming and yelling about, this is wrong, this is going to change. What, you want to vote every 2 weeks on your politician? Well, you know what? If he's not doing what I like, yes. Then the answer would be yes. And I believe everybody should have that, and that would bust up this oligarchy, this so-called monarchy we have here of, you know, the politicians, the Gray Davises, getting Bill Clinton to come out there and, you know, lobby for him. And Bill Clinton had the best statement. He said, this recall effort takes away it's going to make decisions that people will think are unpopular, harder for politicians to make. And all I could think of was, 85% of the people were against NAFTA and GATT, yet Bill Clinton pushed it through. Is this what he's talking about?
You know what I keep thinking that we need in this country?
More whores.
Pardon?
More whores.
More whores? Well, you know what it says in the Bible? It's better to spill your seed into the belly of a whore than on a rock.
Yeah, well, I read Angela's actors, so.
We need online voting. We need internet voting. We need to be able, because there's people out there that are too busy or too lazy or both that would vote if they could sit at home and do it. They're not even worried about fraud, Jake. They're worried about it throwing the political two-party system into turmoil.
Right. And you know what? I kind of disagree with you on that end of it. What I want is internet voting for the politicians. Stay at home and vote from here, and then I can go online and see how you voted on everything.
Well, with video conferencing nowadays, why does my congressman have to fly off to Washington, where all the lobbyists are, to say, hey, here's a little something, here, put this in your pipe and smoke it? You know, and if they could just sit in their office, and here I am, see, and wave their hand, just like we have a webcam at WTAM.com. And just, here, are you there? Here, whatever, and then vote. And like you said, then we'd be able to see how they voted.
Right. And the only part I would disagree with the internet, actually, us voting for the politicians, is I want less people to vote, so my vote counts more.
Well, I want anarchy in the U.S. by internet voting, because I think Thomas Jefferson would have been all for it.
Absolutely, and and that's the disgusting thing. Get this, was this a good line? I called Michael Medved, who is on the air in Cleveland, obviously not on your station. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
A very intelligent guy, and for a nationally syndicated host, I do firmly believe that he is the number 2 host in the nation. And I called him and I told him that, and I think he was a little miffed, because I didn't say, oh, Mike, you're the best guy out there. I actually told him he was the number 2 guy out there, which isn't a bad thing, saying you're number 2.
No, I guess not. I'm number 1 according to the Scene magazine. So I mean, if they voted me number 2, at least number 2 got a mention. Number 3, it's okay if you're not first, but what was that line Larry King used to use? Well, he wasn't the first, he wasn't the second, he wasn't the first or second, but he wasn't the third either, or something like that. I don't know. I think Larry King did some drinking before his pro. No, I don't know what he was doing, but anyway.
Just a wee bit. But anyways, my point to him after I threw that shot at him was,
he might not have been first, but he wasn't second or third either. That's what it was. All right.
Was the fact that this ridiculousness of, we're in the global economy, we need free trade, blah, 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 and yet we don't have it, but they say we do. And right there in that pesky Constitution thing, it says we have the power to regulate commerce. Did that mean regulate it to everybody else's favor and not ours? For this to be a wealth transfer organization from the United States to every other third world country, on Earth? No, it was to benefit us. If something was bad for the American people, we could change it. But now it's just we change everything to the detriment of the American people and to the benefit of, Republicans like Phil Gramm and George Bush. I'll include him, even though I'm a Republican. And to the benefit of Bill Clinton and Dianne Feinstein on the Democratic side. And we're stuck in this freaking godforsaken two-party system, which, and I hear people argue that, well, that's the way it was meant to be. Well, then why were the Founding Fathers, once again, speaking out against partisanism,
That darn pesky Constitution.
It always gets in the way.
Yep.
I try to take over a country, and it foils my plans every time.
Yep. All right, Jake. Well, you make a good point, as usual.
We'll see you.
All right, bye-bye. Well, somebody called, and they had wanted advice on a ticket, and I was just going to go to them, and so, you know what? You hung up. You don't get no advice on your ticket. I'm not a lawyer. I'm Rick Gilmour, M.D. Medical doctor? No. Media darling. Kevin, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick.
Howdy. Speak up in that part with the little holes in it, would you?
Is this better?
That's better.
All right. Hey, as far as cars go, you're talking about some of the plastics from the 70s?
Yeah, what's going to be collectible?
Well, maybe a Datsun 240Z.
Well, yeah, I think you probably have a point there, although I would consider my cutoff line of 75 and later. I could see a 71 Datsun 240Z, but I don't know about a 78 Datsun 280Z. I mean, they just, just take the car and keep bloating it and bloating it and bloating it and make it less and less of a sports car and more of I don't know what.
And in that vein, one of the really laughable things out there were the Trans Ams with the screaming chicken decals on the hood.
The vomiting eagle. The eagle that vomited fire. Technicolor yawn. Blech. How about the turbo Trans Ams with the little lights that would light up on the hood for the driver so that you could see how much boost he was getting?
Gotta have that.
Yeah, it was like a.
We should watch the road.
Yeah, like a backwards vacuum meter. Yeah, we need that lights. Yes, Kit.
I did have a '68 GTO.
So did I.
And it was wonderful. I had the 400 engine.
Hers,
standard.
Have the Hurst, was a standard transmission?
Yeah, 3-speed standard.
Mine had his and her Hurst shifter.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so you could have that little gate over there so you could flip it over so she could shift.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, they called it a Hurst dual gate. Actually, what it was a little lever. You'd flip over a little cover, and you could flip the shifter over to the right, and then you could bang shift it like somebody who should have had a 3-speed manual.
Slick.
Yeah.
I did get to live your example. Although mine did cost me $750, I did get to outrun the police in it.
Well, there you go. I never outran the cops in mine, but trust me, you probably had a '68 GTO in 1978. When the cops in Fairview Park were driving Buicks with 350s in them, and then later they had Fords with 255s in them. Well, Cleveland was driving Chartreuse LTDs with 400 modified engines. You couldn't turn a tire on mud. They were so slow. Huge pig boats with lousy motors because City of Cleveland wouldn't spring for the 460 and the dual exhaust. So we could outrun the cops. Outrun the cops. In 1969, when they were driving in, say, California, the all-time King Hell Highway Patrol car, the 1969 Dodge Polara with the 440 and the 373 rear end, that could do 0 to 60 in something ungodly fast, 7 seconds, and 147 mile an hour wide open. They could sit on the top of an on-ramp, they could sit on the overpass, clock a speeder going under them on the overpass, and catch him by the bottom of the on-ramp. How about them apples? I'm Rick Gilmour. More of the program after these important words on the big one.
Rick Gilmour.
The space aliens have more or less landed. They kept our power on during Y2K.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. They're our friends.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Your triple map the forecast from TV3's Betsy Kling tonight. Upper 50s for a low tomorrow. Rain, thunderstorms, low 70s, currently 59 tomorrow. Get out of the rain and join us at Valley View Champs. Champs in Valley View out there tomorrow. Mike Trevisano's on live 3 to 6. Kevin Johnson from 6 to 7. Then the 2003 NFL Roundtable with Casey Coleman, Kevin Keene, David Kelly, and Triv from 7 to 9. Then hang around and watch the Raiders take on the Broncos. Monday Night Football. Your AM home of the Browns is us. News Radio, WTAM 1100. Griff!
Gilly!
I have nary a whisper. I want to thank Edmund for pulling the strings and pushing the buttons and dials, and Caleb for screening the calls and all that. Did you know that I won the Scene Magazine Best Radio Personality of the Year award?
Oh, don't be lying to me like that, my friend. You did not.
Yes, I did.
Congratulations. Mazel tov.
Thank you. But the problem is, he had this little story, and I only got like a minute.
Well, what is that, a print media guy? Is it print media?
Print media, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know how those print people are. It's electronic media. That's where it's at, my friend.
Well, electronic media is the media of the future.
Tell me again about, what was it, a Dodge what that could catch you off the overpass?
A 1969 Dodge Polara with a 440 and a 373 gear in the back and manual steering.
Wow.
It was 0 to 60 in 7 seconds and top speed of 147 mile an hour.
You know what? You can take any topic and turn it into something. So let me throw this at you. I don't know if you know this old speed trap trick. Maybe you remember driving on the freeway and you'll see a newspaper underneath a rock. And did you ever drive by it? You ever notice that?
Nope, never saw it.
When your car drives by that, it flips the newspaper up, and a cop can see that from a great distance away. And they used to start a stopwatch, and they used to clock you until you got to some other physical object, and they would do the math, and they would calculate your speed. One of the oldest tricks in the book.
Did you ever hear that?
Nope, but that is very interesting, and now I want to read a list that somebody wanted to hear new state mottos.
Let's hear them.
All right, thanks for calling. Yeah, new state mottos was emailed to me at Gilly at WTAM.com, and now I keep getting people emailing me saying that they want to hear it again. So here it is again. Alabama. Hell yes, we have electricity. Alaska. 11,623 Eskimos. Can't be wrong. Arizona. But it's a dry heat. Arkansas. Literacy ain't everything. New state mottos. California. By 30, our women have more plastic than your Honda. Colorado. If you don't ski, don't bother. Connecticut. We're like Massachusetts, only the Kennedys don't own it yet. Delaware. We really do like the chemicals in our water. Florida. Ask us about our grandkids. New state mottos. Georgia. We put the fun in fundamentalist extremism. Hawaii. Hakatika mau shamiriki toru. Death to mainland scum, but leave your money. Idaho. More than just potatoes. Well, okay, we're not. But the potatoes sure are real good. Illinois. Please do not pronounce the S. New state mottos. Indiana. 2 billion years tidal wave free. Iowa. We do amazing things with corn. Kansas, first of the rectangle states. Kentucky, 5 million people, 15 last names. New state mottos. Louisiana, we're not all drunken Cajun wackos, but that's our tourism campaign. Maine, we're really cold, but we've got cheap lobster. Maryland, if you can dream it, we can tax it. New state mottos. Massachusetts, our taxes are lower than Sweden's for most tax brackets. Michigan, first line of defense from the Canadians. Minnesota, new state motto. 10,000 lakes and 10 billion mosquitoes. Mississippi, come and feel better about your own state. Missouri, your federal flood relief tax dollars at work. Montana, land of the big sky, the Unabomber, right-wing crazies, and very little else. New state mottos. Nebraska, ask us about our state motto contest. Nevada, woo, hookers and poker. New Hampshire, go away and leave us alone. New Jersey, you want your motto? I got your motto right here.
Rick Gilmour.
The space aliens have more or less landed. They kept our power on during Y2K.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. They're our friends.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
You tripled out the forecast from TV3's Betsy Kling tonight. Upper 50s for a low tomorrow. Rain, thunderstorms, low 70s, currently 59 tomorrow. Get out of the rain and join us at Valley View Champs. Champs in Valley View out there tomorrow. Mike Trevisano's on live 3 to 6. Kevin Johnson from 6 to 7. Then the 2003 NFL Roundtable with Casey Coleman, Kevin Keene, David Kelly, and Triv from 7 to 9. Then hang around and watch the Raiders take on the Broncos. Monday Night Football. Your AM home of the Browns is us. News Radio, WTAM 1100. Griff!
Gilly!
I have nary a whisper. I want to thank Edmund for pulling the strings and pushing the buttons and dials, and Caleb for screening the calls and all that. Did you know that I won the Scene Magazine Best Radio Personality of the Year award?
Oh, don't be lying to me like that, my friend. You did not.
Yes, I did.
Congratulations. Mazel tov.
Thank you. But the problem is, he had this little story, and I only got like a minute.
Oh, what is that, a print media guy? Is it print media?
Print media, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know how those print people are. It's electronic media. That's where it's at, my friend.
Well, electronic media is the media of the future.
Tell me again about, what was it, a Dodge what that could catch you off the overpass?
A 1969 Dodge Polara with a 440 and a 373 gear in the back and manual steering.
Wow.
It was 0 to 60 in 7 seconds and top speed of 147 mile an hour.
You know what? You can take any topic and turn it into something. So let me throw this at you. I don't know if you know this old speed trap trick. Maybe you remember driving on the freeway and you'll see a newspaper underneath a rock. And did you ever drive by it? You ever notice that?
Nope, never saw it.
When your car drives by that, it flips the newspaper up, and a cop can see that from a great distance away. And they used to start a stopwatch, and they used to clock you until you got to some other physical object, and they would do the math, and they would calculate your speed one of the oldest tricks in the book. Did you ever hear that?
Nope, but that is very interesting, and now I want to read a list that somebody wanted to hear new state mottos.
Let's hear them.
All right, thanks for calling. Yeah, new state mottos was emailed to me at Gilly at WTAM.com, and now I keep getting people emailing me saying that they want to hear it again. So here it is again. Alabama. Hell yes, we have electricity. Alaska. 11,623 Eskimos. Can't be wrong. Arizona. But it's a dry heat. Arkansas. Literacy ain't everything. New state mottos. California. By 30, our women have more plastic than your Honda. Colorado. If you don't ski, don't bother. Connecticut. We're like Massachusetts, only the Kennedys don't own it yet. Delaware. We really do like the chemicals in our water. Florida. Ask us about our grandkids. New state mottos. Georgia. We put the fun in fundamentalist extremism. Hawaii. Hakatika Shamirikitoru. Death to mainland scum, but leave your money. Idaho. More than just potatoes. Well, okay, we're not. But the potatoes sure are real good. Illinois. Please do not pronounce the S. New state mottos. Indiana. 2 billion years tidal wave free. Iowa. We do amazing things with corn. Kansas, first of the rectangle states. Kentucky, 5 million people, 15 last names. New state mottos. Louisiana, we're not all drunken Cajun wackos, but that's our tourism campaign. Maine, we're really cold, but we've got cheap lobster. Maryland, if you can dream it, we can tax it. New state mottos. Massachusetts, our taxes are lower than Sweden's for most tax brackets. Michigan, first line of defense from the Canadians. Minnesota, new state motto. 10,000 lakes and 10 billion mosquitoes. Mississippi, come and feel better about your own state. Missouri, your federal flood relief tax dollars at work. Montana, land of the big sky, the Unabomber, right-wing crazies, and very little else. New state mottos. Nebraska, ask us about our state motto contest. Nevada, woo-hoo, hookers and poker. New Hampshire, go away and leave us alone. New Jersey, you want your motto? I got your motto right here. New state mottos. New Mexico, lizards make excellent pets. New York, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. North Carolina, tobacco is a vegetable. North Dakota, we really are one of the 50 states. New state mottos. Ohio, at least we're not Michigan. Oklahoma, like the play, but no singing. Oregon, spotted owl, it's what's for dinner. Pennsylvania, cook with coal. Rhode Island, we're not really an island. South Carolina, remember the Civil War? Well, we didn't actually surrender. South Dakota, their new state motto, closer than North Dakota. This one, it's a visual. Tennessee, the education state, spelled E-D-U-C-A-S-H-U-N. Texas, si hablo English. Yes, I speak English. Utah's new state motto, our Jesus is better than your Jesus. Vermont, yep. Virginia, who says government stiffs and slackjaw yokels don't mix? Washington State's new state motto, proposed, of course, here, right? Help! We're being overrun by nerds and slackers. Washington, D.C., want to be mayor? West Virginia, one big happy family. Really? Wisconsin, come and cut the cheese. And finally, proposed new state motto is Wyoming, where men are men and the sheep are scared.
All right, that's enough of that. I got to go. See you all.
I love you, Gilby.
WTAM 1100.